We've seen some amazing things, but that, my friends, is something we've never seen.
Brandon Cruz Month's Advice.
Brandon Cruz Month's Advice.
Brandon Month's Advice.
Brandon Cruz Month's Advice. You just locked yourself into the playoffs.
Nice.
Got it.
Talk with old Brandon Cruz Month's Advice.
Completely speechless, to say the least.
Man, I am honestly so baffled by that decision. Brandon Cruz Month's Advice. It's Brandon Month's Advice.
Green flag in the air. Brandon Cruz Month's Advice to the front.
How are you guys doing, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? I'm going to make this a quick video because it's a preview video and it's speedway racing. You know, there's only trends and only just data to support it. You don't need to worry about hot laps. You don't need to worry about practice speeds. So I'm just going to turn this into a really fast episode on the podcast, on the Brandon Cruz Daily Fantasy Podcast. Now, while I do treat this as a podcast and I usually have nothing going on the actual YouTube video, I will have a video in this at the end explaining what I mean by having a good lineup that also has low ownership related to the Clash and the Duels. The 500 and Xfinity races, it's a bit more lenient, but the same principle applies. So let's just get right into it right here. First race of the Speedweeks is the ARCA race, but we don't bet on that, or I don't know if you can bet on that, but I know DraftKings and FanDuel don't worry about it, so we're not going to worry about that. Then we got the 2019 Advanced Auto Parts Clash, 20 drivers eligible this year. That's more than the last few years. I think last year it was 16, year before it was 17 or something like that. I mean, this is the biggest field we've had in the last few years, and especially since they got rid of allowing all the Bud pole winners, or the Coors, back when it was the Bud Shootout, they used to have a shitload of cars in there, and we're not at anywhere near that anymore. So this helps us out DFS purposes to try and gain ownership or try and lose ownership of people that are highly owned, to just try and get a lineup that other people don't have. There's 75 laps, competition caution at lap 25. I think it's just going to be a snore fest. A lot of people are just going to be single file. Excuse me. A lot of people are just going to be single file. There's not going to be a lot of three wide passing or anything like that until the last few laps, and a lot of these teams don't have the cars to just piss away and destroy. I mean, Rush Fenway Racing is basically going bankrupt at this point, so that gives you a pretty good indication of how NASCAR is doing as a whole when that old organization is doing real shitty financially wise. But right off the bat, entering for the Clash right now, you have, let me check right fast, the 20 drivers eligible. Ryan Blaney, Bowman, Busch, the two Busch brothers, Elliott, Hamlin, Harvick, Jones, Larson, Logano, Menard, Suarez, Truex, McMurray, Newman, Dillon, Johnson, Almirola, Boyer, and Keselowski. So the favorite going in right now for fantasy purposes, and I guarantee you if you listen to any other podcast in a week from now, they're going to be saying, Joey Logano's the favorite. You got to play Joey Logano. You got to put him in the lineups. So the reason I'm going to be saying that is because five of the six winning lineups of the past 6 years have had Logano in the winning lineup. Regardless of where he started, and regardless of how the race has gone, Logano has been part of the winning lineup five of the last 6 times on the Clash. So a lot of people are going to be like, Logano is the favorite, you got to put him in, you got to put Keselowski in because he's a teammate, and Keselowski's basically Dale Earnhardt at this day and age on super speedways because he's always up in the front. Okay, so I am not going to pay any attention to those trends. I'm not going to pay any attention to history at the super speedways because by definition I think it's Johnson who has not finished a Clash race his entire career. I could be wrong on that, but I think he's wrecked in every single Clash he's been in, or at least the ones he's been in the past 8 years. I could have swore I just saw that, and I have it written down, but I didn't pay attention if that's a Duel or a Clash. I'm pretty sure it's a Clash, but that right there makes me want to hop on Johnson instead of Logano just because everyone's going to love Logano because he's been doing great there. You got to find places to jump off of ownership and get to someone at lower own. And speaking of what I was saying, I have an actual video in this quote-unquote podcast. I'm going to play it right here, and it's going to show you my rough example of what I mean of some or what's the most common strategy, which is just playing drivers in the back. So please watch the video right fast, and then I'll elaborate when it's over.
So this is the video, and this is what I want to start getting more of when I have more time, and I want to make this video just better for everyone. So let me use this as an example. So say for the class right now, starting positions 1 through 20. By definition, the highest possible lineup could be A, B, C. I'm just use this as a driver's example. So I'm not using any real names. I'm just using this as an example. So drivers 20 through 15th, which is the 6 drivers that you can get from DraftKings. So the highest possible lineup is obviously A, B, C, D, E, and F. Okay, so you have this. So this is where game theory really comes into play, because I don't give a flying fuck who these people are. In the Clash, you want the highest possible lineup, but you also want a lineup that differentiates you from the other lineup. So let's say, for example, you're playing a 100-man tournament. 25% of the people in this tournament play this. So right now you're sharing this lineup with 25% of the people. All right, I'm sure you can follow that. I'm sure it's easy to understand. So while this might be the best lineup for the Clash, like projection-wise, what I try and do is play people that aren't highly owned, even though you have a good lineup here. While this might be the best lineup and it might actually end up winning, I want a lineup that has a lower owned driver. So for example, let's say like Billy Bob starts in 8th position. You know, like for whatever reason, I feel like 4th through 8th are going to be really low owned regardless of who they are. So let's say if you just get rid of like driver E from your lineup and instead you put Billy Bob starting 8th. So if you had 25% of the people owning these top 6 drivers, I'm sure 20th will be highly owned, 19th. All these guys will be highly owned just because based on the principle that lower owned or people starting in the back on super speedways have the greatest amount of potential. So what I do is I'm going to throw a lineup out there with the 8th starting driver, the 9th starting driver, the 10th starting driver, built off of these, maybe 2, like whoever's starting 11th and 7th or whatever, just to get a different lineup. So you're playing 2 different games on fantasy sports for NASCAR, especially for the Clash, for the 500, for the Xfinity. You want the highest possible lineup, which is 15th through 20th, and then you want a different driver that is low owned to try and have a different lineup than everyone. So let's say, like, for whatever reason, this is just for example, Billy Bob is 7% owned. For whatever reason, if he starts 8th, you have 7% of the people owning it. Let's say for whatever reason you get rid of 16th and all these guys are like 90% owned, 80% owned, 70% owned, 60% owned, 60% owned, and 50% owned. Right now you just broke off from that 60% owned to 70. So that's what you have to try and do to win a lot of money on DraftKings and FanDuel related to the Clash. You have to have a good lineup that has a good amount of drivers in it that can give you a lot of points, but you don't want to have the same one that other people have, because I don't want to tie with anyone. I want a different lineup. So that's what it comes down to. That's just what I wanted to show you on paper as an example really fast.
Okay, well, now that you've actually watched the video and everything, so you get what I'm saying about you want a good lineup that has a high ceiling, but then you also want to like get different drivers or whatnot. So that I think that's the trend or the main strategy that I use for the Clash and the 2 duels. Yet again, I'll start going into more detail of how the cars are doing in the actual Clash video and the actual duel video or duels video next week and the week after that. I'm just, like I said, this is just a preview, or just like me explaining things right fast. So that's my plan for the Clash. I'll start going over more when I have practice data. Even though I don't really care about fast laps, I just like seeing how the cars act and respond, and seeing how the drivers and how they're like comfortable this year and on the track and everything. Because Daytona is slowly losing grip. It's not that good concrete that they had in, or it's not that good asphalt they put in 2012 now. I think like shit, it's from 2012. That thing's like way over 6 years old, you know. And I just went blank on how many years that is, but it's an old track, you know. Like it doesn't have the grip that they used to. And McMurray said that the track started losing grip like 2 years ago, 3 years ago even. So, or back when the Gen 6 first came out, that's when he said it. So this track is going to be really slick. I think it's going to start leaning more towards the early 2000 racing, and not the high pack, even though that's what they're trying to do with these new cars. Okay, so that's the Clash right now. Then we got the duels, which is basically the same idea. If there's, let's just say, if there's 40 guys entering for the 500, then there's 20 guys in each duel, then that's the same as the Clash. If there's some go or go homers, play the go or go homers. I love playing go or go homers in the duels because they usually qualify really shitty, and they have absolutely nothing to lose. They are trying to make the 500. They're going to race as hard as they can. Play go or go homers in the duels. That's really all I have to say about the duels. The Xfinity, we're going to have to wait and see who the actual entries are for the, I think it's the NASCAR Experience 300 at Daytona. Like, someone is using the NASCAR name to promote NASCAR driving experiences, sponsoring a NASCAR race. So I think that's what it's called this year. But I like a lot of the motor business management teams, which is owned by Carl Long. I love Chad Fincham and Timmy Hill from that team just right now, looking in, because they finally have sponsorship. They finally have enough cars to actually race, and they're not going to play as conservative as they have years past. Especially Timmy Hill. I think that Timmy Hill and Chad are some great dark horses entering the Xfinity race right now, like 2.5 weeks out, for daily fantasy purposes. I don't think they're going to have the speed to qualify in the top 25, and I think they have a good chance of finishing top 20, top 15 even. So hopefully Timmy and Chad will start like 33rd and 31st, and they'll finish 14th and 11th. Hopefully that's what I'm thinking. So I have them circled, that I like them right now, right off the bat. And so that's for the Xfinity race. And the 500 right now, the favorites for the 500 going in, this is just straight Vegas odds. This isn't DFS purposes or anything. Well, it is, but okay, you know what I mean. Keselowski's the favorite, then you got Harvick, Logano, and then you have Keselowski's 8-1, Harvick's 9-1, Logano's 9-1, and then you have a bigger drop of 12-1 amongst 4 drivers, which is Almirola, Boyer, Elliott, and Hamlin. Then you have 14-1 Blaney, Busch, and Truex, and then Suarez is at 20-1, and just because he's in a new ride. And then like right now, your long shots are DiBenedetto in the 95, even though he has a way better team than he had been with Go Fast Racing or whatever he was with in the 32 last year. Then you have Reagan, Ty Dillon, Chris Buescher. Those guys are 100-1s, and DiBenedetto is 200-1. So right now, people are going to be like, if you look at the history, especially the last 5 years on Superspeedway racing, Keselowski's the new Dale Earnhardt, and Logano's his wingman. He's Dale Earnhardt reincarnated part 2. So Penske and then Stewart Haas in general are going to be favorited. So hopefully they qualify up front, so everyone fucking picks them for the 500, and I could just like swoop up guys like Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Larson and William Byron and things of that nature. But I guarantee if you listen to any podcast right now, they're going to be saying that you got to play Keselowski, you got to play Logano on plate tracks. And while I agree with that, because the stats do tell you that and do support that, we got to try and get off that if you want to win money, if you want to be different from other people. So that's just the short intro for the Speedweeks, the Daytona Speedweeks preview. If you guys have any questions or anything, hit me up on Twitter, BrandonCruzDFS, or comment on this video if you have any questions, and if you want to start asking questions, and if you want things to be researched for you, or just you want to say that you liked it or at least watched it or whatever, just leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what I can do, what I can show you better, and what you want in the actual videos. Like I said, this is just a preview video. I don't have any practice time or footage of the cars or anything. This is just me looking from the outside in for the Daytona Speedweeks and all that. So thank you guys for listening so much. I can't wait to get this new year started on NASCAR DFS. It's going to be a great year. Let's win a shitload of money, and let's do this, guys. Thanks for listening. Have a great night.